Welcome to the Branding Highway podcast, where local businesses meet the community and share their unique stories. Let's hit the road with your host and voice of the podcast, Mike Sedita.
Welcome to the Branding Highway. I'm your host, Mike Sedita. We have the pleasure today of being joined by Brian Cartagena. He is with the Tony Robbins organization, and he's a peak performance strategist. Brian, how you doing today?
I'm doing phenomenal, man. Thank you for having me.
Oh, I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you. I'm a big Tony Robbins fan. I mean, I've done a lot. I do a lot of coaching with some of my team, and I lean on a lot of the I don't want to say methodology, but a lot of the source material I get is basically hijacked. No, it's pieces of it though. I use a lot of it for inspiration for how I coach my team. So I really was looking forward to having you on with us today on the Branding Highway. So I definitely want to jump right in and learn a little bit about what you do and understand like the role you have in the organization and what you guys are looking to do here. I know you guys have a big event Isn't there like a big event coming up here next week, a big free event?
Yeah, so at the end of January, we're going to be hosting Tony's big free seminar called Time to Rise. It's going to be January 29th through the 31st. So if you've never heard of Tony or you've been interested in Tony's work, that's the place to be. It's 2-3 hours a day where you'll dive deep into what you mentioned, the methodologies that have helped businesses and organizations and individuals for the last 45 years that Tony's been doing this.
Yeah. I've been definitely getting blown up on it. You guys are doing a ton of promotion about it, but let's dive into you, okay, and what you do with the organization. So first question I always like to ask people is, tell us about your business. I mean, I think you have to be living under a rock to not know who Tony Robbins is. But if you want to dive into a little bit about what the organization is and what you guys do, and then we'll jump into a little bit of your role.
Well, thanks, Mike. Like you said, Tony's been around for 45 years. He's impacted over 50 million lives in every recognizable country on the planet. And so everybody knows who Tony is. He's essentially the father of personal development at this point. And at a high level, I'm one of 5 national trainers for Tony. And what I do is I help leaders and teams and organizations apply his philosophies, his methodologies, as you mentioned, to help them perform at a higher level. And I work specifically with high pressure environments. So not just your everyday person who just needs a little motivation. I'm working directly in a virtual or in-person capacity all over the world with teams and organizations that want to start installing a different personal operating system, is what we call it. How they think, how they decide, how they manage their emotions, and essentially execute under pressure.
So let me ask you, I mean, how do you, can I ask you, I mean, you seem like a young guy. I mean, you look like you're in your early mid-20s. How do you, and I may be wrong there, I'm not a good judge of that. I never guess a woman's age. It's unhealthy to do that. But a man's age, I'm going to take a stab at it. Are you in your like mid-20s?
Thank you. That's the guns. I'm 31. So
all right. Oh, you're 31. I'm 53. Okay, so let's talk about that. So, but 31. Okay, so you're a young guy. How do you get into this? Like, how were you exposed to Tony Robbins at an early age to be able to get a head start on a lot of probably the people you're coaching? Right? They're usually people in an organization that need some rewiring.
Yeah, so I'm the youngest by far. One of Tony's strategists. So we're 5, and I got 25 years is my next counterpart, and it's because of what you said, experience. So I've been around for a little while. My journey really started in high pressure environments. I've been in the auto industry and sales since I was 17 years old. But even before that, I was kind of finding ways to grind and how to hustle. And I always thought that I was wired to like build, push, and produce. So I came from a place of working harder. I come from New York, and I have legal immigrant parents. And in order for us to make it out, you had to really go out there and hustle and grind. And
hustle.
I unfortunately learned the hard way that working smarter was what they meant when they said working smarter. So technically, at a young age, I went through some hardships, and we'll probably discuss that as we go forward. And it really put my life on a pause at an early age. At about 23, I was involved in a big motorcycle accident. I almost lost my life. I broke 7 bones. And you too? What kind of bike did you ride, Mike?
I had a Road King, a 2001 Harley Road King. On my 30th birthday, I had a motorcycle accident just outside of Atlanta, Georgia, and it tore me up pretty bad. So bad that the day we're recording this, I just came from the chiropractor. Still, it's 23 years since I had that accident, and I still see a chiropractor. I still have trouble sleeping and it wasn't even a really bad accident as far as motorcycle accidents go. So you had that early on. I mean, did that set you back?
It's propelled me forward. It was the greatest thing to ever happen to me. I got into that accident, although I was doing well for myself, figuring out how to make six figures at an early age. That motorcycle accident slowed me the heck down, and I spent so much time with myself. I was immobilized for 6 months. I was in the hospital for 4 of those 6 months, just with a lot of time to think. And that's when I realized that I needed to do something differently, that just the old school intensity wasn't really sustainable. I was moving fast. And although, again, I was accomplishing some goals, but I didn't have the clarity to move towards where I knew I was capable of. And that eventually drew me to working with Tony. I had heard of Tony, like a lot of us. And I'm like, you know what, let me go to the event. What do I have to lose? At this point, I was going through it. I was financially in a bad position after losing my job. I was hurt. Doctors were telling me I wasn't going to be able to run again or play sports. And so I'm like, let me give it a stab. And I went to Tony Robbins' event in Florida, West Palm Beach. I walked on fire. I hopped through fire with my crutches, and my life was completely transformed. I came back out of there, and with those tools and philosophies that I learned with Tony, I opened up my first business, Familia Motor Group, where we generate over 8 figures worth of business every single year. I run that company with over 50 employees. I opened up a couple of dealerships on the side to supplement that auto brokerage. And I use those same philosophies to lose weight. I lost 60 pounds of fat, gained 30 pounds of muscle. I met my wife, who's now mother of my 4 children. Everything in my life essentially came from that moment or that decision to start investing back into myself. And instead of working harder, I started working smarter.
It's crazy. Our stories are very similar. Besides the motorcycle accident, I did spend time in the auto industry. I find it interesting, though, applying what I consider principled philosophies, which is what I kind of look at Tony as. Like, it's principled philosophies. And knowing what I know of the car industry in the short time that I was in it, there wasn't a lot of principled philosophies. I mean, there were people with principles and all that. So I'm not saying they're unscrupulous, but the car industry is notorious for churning and burning guys up and going and doing that. So the fact that you took those principles, those theories, those principles from Tony and applied them to your business, did you almost see like was it pouring gasoline on the fire, or was it, because that industry is known for like hustle and go, like you're talking about? By applying these principles to that, did it just kind of add fuel to it to just make it go crazy?
Yeah. So, and I'm glad that you mentioned it. I'm glad we're having this conversation. You know exactly what I'm talking about. So in the auto industry, it was like work. And Tony believes in massive action cures all. So I do believe we need to work. But, it doesn't matter how far you go if you're going the wrong way. And so what I learned with Tony was how to center myself, how to align and not just work, but really have the right strategies in place, how to have the right operating system in place, how to act, but on not instinct alone, but on actual knowledge that has helped so many people across decades of time. So when I started applying that to myself, I saw massive success. And then I started teaching other people in my industry, within my organization, how to do the same. And we started having massive success. And that's how I kind of ended up now working for Tony as one of 5 speakers. I was hand selected by Tony to apply this to other businesses. And I specifically focus on high performance environments. So I work with realtors. I work with auto companies. I work with insurance, finance people who are usually in that hustle and bustle kind of mindset, and help them not necessarily slow down, but install the right operating system so that if they do decide to go, they can go further, faster, is essentially what I help people do.
It's funny is listening to a lot of his stuff. The thing I take away from it, and this is what I use in my approach with the teams that I train, and I train a very similar group. So I train small business owners, entrepreneurs. It's a very similar business model to real estate agents and to insurance brokers. They kind of work in their own world, but they operate their business. And we talk about activity, and we have a metric that a lot of businesses have, like their metric that they follow for success and ensure all that. But what I try to instill in a lot of them is that I can train you on all these techniques. I could train you on overcoming objections. I could train you on the skill set that's required to do this role. The one thing I can't train or put into you is that mental dexterity when things get hard for how to overcome it. And that's what I kind of cheated on this, saying like some of the stuff I talk to them about is Tony Robbins stuff, because I'm a big believer, because a lot of the stuff I hear from Tony is like, the product is important, but the relationship you create in that interaction is more vital to the success and long-term growth for a business, for an entity, for that realtor. Yeah, you might be able to turn out and sell 5 houses, but how are you cultivating that relationship to become a long-term partner with that person and really like put your head on the pillow at night? I call it the pillow test. If I put my head on the pillow at night, I know I'm treating people with respect. I'm doing the right thing. I'm doing it for the right reasons, and I'm able to go to sleep at night. When I worked in the car industry, I'm honest to say that there were times I couldn't pass the pillow test, where I was, someone come on that used car lot looking for a Ford Escort, and I'd throw them in a loaded Explorer. And it just wasn't like, and that's just the way it was back then. I mean, it's a little harder to do that now, but there's still guys that are really good at doing that. And the thing I really love about what you're talking about is I kind of lump salespeople into 2 categories. There's hunters and then there's gatherers. Gatherers are like the car dealer guys. They sit on a lot. They wait. When a deer goes walking through the lot, they're like a lion jumping on it, but the deer is coming to them. Whereas my guys, they're hunters. They're going out in the field. They're banging on doors. They're kicking over tires. So for that type of person, what would be like a strategy that you would be able to say to them, like, like a principle that they could apply to kind of push forward when it gets hard?
So, I love your experience that you have in this industry, man. The number one practical tool that I've learned from Tony, I've learned a lot, but practical tool that you can apply. And I've noticed with all the people around us, I've been encountering a lot of successful people while working with Tony, and they all have one thing in common, and that's start with the end in mind. Start with the end in mind, or in other words, they're outcome oriented. They're not necessarily action oriented. And that's where I mentioned the personal operating system. A lot of us, we need to sell 15 cars. We need to close this amount of deals. We need to make this amount of money. Okay, slow down. Why? Like, what's the real outcome that you're after? Because if you focus on the outcome, then you'll realize that there's a lot of different actions that can get you there. And when you come from that perspective, and then you fuel it with purpose, with a why, a reasoning behind it, then you'll realize that a massive action plan just means aligning yourself with the actions that are going to really move the needle forward, because movement doesn't always equal progress. And I think that's the biggest misconception.
That's a big one.
In the sales industry. Is like, we all want to move, want to knock on, but it's like, hey, like you said, if you already sold the vehicle, how can you grow that? Which is what I did with my business, by the way. We went from being gatherers in the auto industry to being hunters. We established a social media presence. We created discovery calls where we'll help people for 15, 20 minutes on learning how to buy a car. And so people were coming to us, asking us for information, but we were going out there and getting it as well. And that made life so much easier. And now our phones ring. We work with everything from Honda to Lamborghini, and it's so easy to transact because we went out there and gave the value. We went out there and hunted. But it all started with, what's the outcome that we want, and how can we align our purpose behind that outcome? And then we get creative. Just to give you an example, if you don't mind me.
No, man, that's why we're here. I want to hear this stuff. I'm going to steal this and give it to my team tomorrow.
In 2020, we went through, obviously, the big bang, whatever you want to call it. And things were hard in business, and we were in a pickle. We almost went bankrupt after building our business for 2-3 years because of the whole chip shortage. So there was not enough people wanting to buy cars. And so what we did is, because we were so clear on our outcome, that we decided to buy cars from people and then sell them back to the businesses, to the dealerships. And so we reverse engineered the process. We were still creating value. And in 2020, 2021, we blew up as a wholesaler back to the dealerships. And then by the time 2022 rolled around, we were doing both. So now we're selling cars to people and selling cars to dealerships. And that's when our business really took off. But again, we were focused on the outcome, not necessarily selling more cars.
And if I remember that around that time, I mean, used cars, you were giving them back, and dealerships were paying top dollar for them because inventory was so low. So you were still buying them good from retail, from consumers, and still able to get them back. You kind of knew that sweet spot in between to reverse engineer it.
Exactly. And we did it the same way. We were hosting calls. We were hosting workshops, seminars every week, helping people get out of the bad financial situation that they made. So people will come in, oh my God, I have this Toyota. I'm going through through, my life is crazy right now. I can't afford it. Things are tough. Hey, no problem. This is what you should be doing. And then at the end, we'll give them the ability to sell it back to us, and we'll find a buyer for them in the form of a dealership.
So, all right. So that's from the philosophical standpoint. From the implementation side of it, like, is there, and again, this part I don't know, right? Like from a Tony Robbins standpoint, from the implementation side, besides helping create that philosophy and change creation and all that mentally and all that, infrastructure wise, do you guys have systems in place, like with helping businesses? Like if it's an independent, say a realtor, I mean, that's the easiest one. They're super independent, but helping them put systems in place like CRMs and social media presence. Like, is there a component to what the Tony Robbins team does to like end to end, like, or is it all just motivational mindset and approach?
And that's a great question. One of the biggest misconceptions is that Tony's work, or just peak performance in general, is motivation, like a quick burst of inspiration. No, Tony's the most practical human, I think, on the planet. Like, he helps bring all these philosophies from Jim Rohn and Les Brown and make it real. So as an introductory session, I do these complimentary sessions for businesses, and I help them install the philosophy around their belief system. And I teach them that all human behavior is belief driven, because that's the first part. If you don't believe, you won't take the action necessary to create the result. So if you don't believe that I can help, then I literally cannot help. Henry Ford said it best: if you think you can or you think you can't, either way, you're right. But then from that point, you go over to a Tony Robbins event, his big seminar, Unleash Your Power Within. He's in Florida in November for this event. He does it once a year. That's a 3-day immersive experience where he rewires you up and down neurologically. You walk on fire. It's an insane event he's been hosting for the last 40 years. And then from that point, you have the decision to make, depending on how or what area of your life you want to focus on. So Tony has what we call business mastery, where you dive deep into business. He has the 7 forces of business mastery, where you learn everything from accounting to building a brand to creating a product. And he's helped so many people in that aspect of life, specifically by bringing people like Keith Cunningham, Jay Abraham together and really working out a system that leaders can use immediately. That's the event that I went to in 2018. And from that event alone, 8 years later, I'm still applying those same 7 forces to continue growing my business. He has life mastery, wealth mastery, a soul mastery, time mastery. So he has different events or different seminars with coaching included that helps you in whatever area of life you want to focus on. But the first step, again, is rewiring that mental belief system, which is what I do. And then I bring you to a Tony event, and then your destination from there, your road is up to you, how you want to go and how you want to continue growing with Tony's work.
So it's funny you say that. One of the things I sent to my team actually this morning was a video of Tony talking about making the decision, committing to the decision, and then having the resolve when things get tough. It was an interview he was doing. So it's funny you say that. I'm trying to think to myself, did I send that text this morning? It was this morning to my team. So I definitely believe, in that, the mindset shift. So, if someone hears this and wants to sign up with you and go to one of these seminars and have that introductory with you, is it so I get there and I believe I'm in, you got me, I'm all in, I'm going to walk on fire, skip across it or roll through it. It doesn't matter, whatever I'm going to do, but I'm in now. I'm a believer. I've got that in me. Are there resources within the organization where I can say, look, I need to start like some sort of outreach and marketing and things like that, where you guys say, oh, this is a partner we work with that does it, that could help you set up your infrastructure, help you build your website, help you set up your phone systems to kind of scale a business? Or is that all external? Like you guys don't dabble in that because it's too many cooks in the stew? Or do you get into it? Yeah,
so and that's a good question. So we have an overall arching. So like the basis, for example, like for accounting, we have a strong connection with Keith Cunningham. For AI, we work with Dan Martell. And so we have a couple of guys that on a big umbrella can help out with their big companies, right, and they've used Tony's philosophies themselves. But as far as like directly implementing something like a CRM, again, we're more of a coaching company. So we're going to help you set up the processes to go ahead and do what you need to do.
Yeah. Exactly. I got you. So we're about 20 minutes into this interview here, and I got to ask you the one really big question that I need to know. It's kind of the burning question in all this is, you're a Long Island guy. You have this knowledge how to change mindset. and you're probably a Jets fan. So if you were talking to Aaron Glenn, the coach of the Jets, how would you figure out how to rework the Jets' mindset? The Giants were already set. We got John Harbaugh. We're going to be good. We're all good. Jim Harbaugh. So what would you say to the Jets organization after 50 years of failure? How do they change that mind? They need like a rewiring as an organization.
Well, I think it starts with Woody Johnson, and Woody Johnson needs to say, hey, all human behavior is belief driven. Let me believe my way out of here and give somebody the opportunity to, man, you've seen Geno Smith, Sam Darnold, all these guys are cooking everywhere else. And Aaron Rodgers even went to Pittsburgh. I know he lost, but I mean, he made it to the playoffs, and we just can't figure it out. And
I could say the same thing, right? Guys on the Giants, they let guys go. Xavier McKinney, Leonard Williams, who I loved, who was a Jet also. They let guys go and they've had success. Daniel Jones, man. Listen, people can give me a hard time. I was a huge Daniel Jones fan. The team, the organization did that kid a disservice in his career with the Giants. But the Jets organization is just dysfunctional from top down. Like I mean, the Giants are much better. I can't sit here and defend it, but the Jets just year in and year out figure out ways to just make the wrong decision time after time after time. And it's hard to, I mean, it's got to be hard for you. Like you had that little flash with Rex Ryan when the Patriots and the Jets were going at it, but it's been a long time.
They got me, man. That's when they got me. When we had that Darrelle Revis stint, I was just so happy being a Jet fan. But and I think that I can even relate this to life, man. There's an internal operating system problem that no matter how many strategies you learn, no matter who's your quarterback, or in your case, how much people jump from dealership to dealership, from business to business, from brokerage to brokerage. Same concept here. It doesn't matter if you're not broken, because I don't believe anybody's broken, but if internally you have the wrong way of seeing the world, then it doesn't matter what's around you in the external reality, you're going to find a way to F it up. And I think that's the Jets right now. I mean, it's not a secret. We got Seattle back in the playoffs. I mean, making a run. We have the Patriots back in the making a, dude, it comes down to organization. And I'm glad that you mentioned that. Aaron Glenn is just he's just, how do I explain this? He's a victim of the problem. I think he would have succeeded maybe somewhere else. Maybe give him another shot somewhere else. But I think the Jets organization is
relating that back to the national championship game. I was listening to people talk about. I listen to New York Sports Talk because that's on ESPN. But listening to them talk about Mendoza and like someone said something to the effect of, "Well, enjoy that victory because you're going to go to the Raiders and you're not going to win for a while." Because that's just dysfunction. And it's funny, I always relate a lot of stuff back to sports, right? And it is a microcosm. Like you can see the real world happen in this small window of what's going on, whether it's the competitive spirit, the mindset, the belief, the resiliency, like all those things that people in the field need every day. And the funny thing is, the one I always go back to from my team is this. And I don't know if you're a baseball guy. You might be a Mets guy. I don't know if that's really considered baseball. I mean, they Cohen is just wrecking that team too. But whatever. We can have a whole conversation about that. But my analogy with baseball is always this: it's a long season. There's always ups and downs. If you stay consistent, you can come out of a slump. And Hall of Famers hit 300. That means 7 out of 10 times you're going to fail, and you're still making the Hall of Fame. If you look at that metric behind it, whatever your sales metric is in your organization, you don't even need to make the Hall of Fame to be successful in most organizations. You just need to be a little bit above average and still do well. So, I don't know. I just think that mindset is such a huge component, top to bottom, whether it's sports, whether it's business, whether it's relationships, individual, interpersonal relationships. Do you guys do like not marriage counseling, but he does a lot of relationship stuff as well. You don't focus on that in your role.
I don't in a work capacity, but it's something that I hold true to my heart, because when I met my wife, it completely changed my life. Aside from my work with Tony, having a partner, somebody that I can trust has wholeheartedly changed me in business. It's changed me as an individual. It realigned who I am. And so I'm always big on my own personal time to help people. I believe that men out there need to understand that a little bit more. You know, 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2. 1 + 1 = 3 = 5. That's how you build a family. That's how you build legacy. But and I think with relationship and everything in general, it goes down to what Tony always says: people overestimate what they could do in 1 year, but underestimate what they could do in 10. And so, like in a game, for example, going 1 for 4 in a baseball game, that's not the greatest stat. But if you do that over and over and over again, that one hit every game might be the hit that takes you to the playoffs, that might win a World Series. And so if you do that consistently over time, you have a hitting streak and you end up batting 250, 270, 280, 300, and you're one of the greatest players to ever play the game. But people just look at the micro, they see the small 1 for 4, and it's like, wow, I have 4 opportunities and I struck out twice, but they're not realizing how much they're impacting the longevity of their career. So I think in life is the same thing. We get over obsessed with what's right in front of us, and there's a place for that, yes. But I feel like, again, most successful people are outcome oriented, and they become obsessed with that final outcome to the point where they'll keep running through walls until they get there.
You know, it's funny. I talk a lot about an abundance mentality versus a scarcity mentality and how you approach things, right? And it's that similar thing. Like, if you are, so like 20 people in a row could tell you no, but you could, like, I could bump into you online at Taco Bell and you could say, hey, I'm a coach and I do this and that. And that could be the deal that leads me to the next deal, that leads me to the next deal. So letting your guard down for just that minute is the thing that could set you back. So you always, like, I'm always telling people, you got to keep your eyes out. You got to be attentive to what's coming at you, because you could have a diamond show up in front of your face. If you don't recognize it's a diamond and be able to grab it, you're going to ultimately end up missing out. Well, you know, one of the things I really wanted to ask you too is, you know, this is what you do. You're a coach. You do this thing, right? And I'll tell you, I relate. You know, my wife, later in life, I met my wife. She changed my life, like totally changed my life. Helped me find God, helped me find a path, all that stuff. So I could totally appreciate that. Do you ever find your wife knows what you do for a living? She knows you have this mental self-defense, basically. Like, you know how to shape and approach stuff. Do you ever get into like a conversation with her where she's like, hey, don't use any of that Tony Robbins stuff on me? Does she ever do that to you?
So it happens all the time. Actually, we have so she's a big Tony fan herself. So I introduced her and helped her build up her business the same way. But what we do is we again, outcome oriented. So before we start a conversation, sometimes we even say, babe, do you need me? Like, am I coaching right now? Or am I your husband? Or am I your, you know, because it's different. Sometimes I tell her, babe, I need to coach you real quick, because I'm going to talk to you and I don't need you to coddle me and make me feel good. Like, I need you to tell me how it is. Am I effing up here, or should I do things a little bit differently? So I think starting with the communication is important. But yeah, she always looks at me like, you're doing that again, aren't you?
You're pulling that move on me again. I got you. All right, well, that was good. I needed to know that. So as we start to wrap this up, because we're getting close to time, and I want to make sure I don't take too much of your time today. But what would you say is, you know, the one thing people listening to this or hearing it on Spotify, and if you're listening to this, you're looking for it, Spotify, the Branding Highway on Spotify, iTunes, you can find us in all the places where you find podcasts. What would you want the listener or the viewer to know? Like, why do they need to get in touch with you, whether it's for their organization, if they want to bring you in to coach some of their people, that type of stuff? What's the one thing they need to know, and what's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
And thank you for asking that, by the way. I want people to know that this work isn't about fixing you. People go to coaching when they want to create lasting change, and they usually think it's because something's wrong with them. And I'm here to share with you that you're going to change whether you want to or not. And it's usually because of one of two things. You're either going to experience massive amounts of pleasure, you're going to have a baby, you're going to get married, you're going to open up a new business, or you're going to experience massive amounts of pain. Yeah. You're going to go and get in an accident. You're going to get divorced. You're going to get a health issue. You're going to go bankrupt. And so if you don't want to experience either or before you make lasting change, that's when you need to reach out to a coach, somebody who can see outside of you and help you find the root of how you can do the things that you already know you need to be doing. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm here to help you do the things that are already important to you. So if you feel like whether it's in your business, in your personal life, you need somebody to help you do the things that are already important to you, then you need to reach out to a coach. And in this case, Tony's organization is the best in the entire world. So you can connect with me and I'll help you out.
And what's the best way? Like if I'm looking for a way to take my business to the next level, get my mind right, find that vision and that goal and that purpose, and be able to stay on point working with you and Tony's organization, what's the best way for listeners to get a hold of you?
So in this case, Mike, what I want to do is I want to offer anybody listening to this podcast direct access to me. So you can reach out to me, 929-685-6867. And I want to grant every single one of you a complimentary workshop. So we'll talk. That's not even part of it. We'll talk. We'll see how we can benefit each other, how I can impact your team. And then I'll offer a free session on me, on Tony, where we'll go into your organization, share some of these insights, share some of these philosophies. And if it makes sense and it's aligned, then we continue the relationship going forward. But I want everybody here to at least taste what it's like to start shifting those belief systems. And you'll see immediately how people start reacting and doing things differently in your organization or in your team.
Man, I love it. Brian, I love it. So if you're listening to this or watching it on YouTube, if you're interested in getting an opportunity to work with someone in the Tony Robbins organization, Brian is one of 5. There's only 5 in the entire country that do what he does. And he's giving people from the Branding Highway the opportunity to get a free evaluation, if you will, just by calling him directly. The number is 929-685-6867. Brian, I appreciate you coming out. Thanks for taking a ride down the Branding Highway. You have an amazing day, my friend. I'll talk to you soon.
Mike, you too, man. Thank you so much. Go Giants.
We hope you enjoyed your ride down the Branding Highway. This has been a 16W Media Group production. Don't forget to take the next exit at 16W. Visit 16wmediagroup.com. If you want to be part of the journey, reach out to info@16wmediagroup.com.